Oh, so yeah, I'll be doing a re-ranking. This time it'll be for the band Sevendust. And the last time I ranked their albums, Truth Killer wasn't out yet, and same with Blood and Stone, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I figured it'd be time to eventually get around to doing a re-ranking for this band. But yeah, we'll be going from worst to best. Keep in mind, this is just my personal ranking. You don't have to agree with it, but feel free to let me know your ranking in the comment section below. But yeah, at the bottom, pretty easy choice for me. We got Time Travelers and Bonfires. And yeah, solid album, but definitely the album that I return to the least out of their whole discography. But with this album, you have 6 new acoustic songs, while the rest of the album, you have acoustic versions of older songs. Come Down's a pretty good song, though. Probably my favorite on here, but yeah, again, solid album, but again, not something that I return to all that much, to be honest. But the next album in my ranking is Chapter 7, Hope and Sorrow, and this album to me is just alright. It's always been one of my least favorites from the band, but still not bad though. A decent album. I mean, Inside, Prodigal Son, Enough, those are some of my favorites on the album. But yeah, this is just an album that, again, has never been one of my personal favorites. I feel like they've done much stronger than this, and it's easily my least favorite when it comes to the Sonny Mayo albums. But the next album in my ranking is one of their more later albums, one of their more recent. We got this album, Kill the Flaw. Again, a solid album, but never been one of my personal favorites. But you do have some pretty good songs on here, though, like especially the singles on here. But yeah, Thank You and Not Today are definitely some of my favorites. Death Dance is another pretty good song. Silly Beast is kind of an overlooked song on here that I also enjoy. But yeah, again, good album, but for me, never been one of their best, at least in my opinion. The next album in my ranking is Blood and Stone. To me, a step down from All I See Is War. I know some people disagree with that, because I remember some people calling it a step up, which I personally, again, disagree with. But still, a solid album, though. There's some good stuff on here. Blood from a Stone, which was one of the singles, the first single, if I remember correctly. I think that's definitely one of my favorites on here. Love, which is track number 2, another favorite of mine on the album. I do like their cover of The Day I Tried to Live. I am a Soundgarden fan, and I do think they did a pretty good cover with that song. Of course, I do like the original more, but still, Sevendust's cover of The Day I Tried to Live, fairly good. I do like Against the World, one of the more heavier songs on the album. What You've Become, fairly standard Sevendust, but another standout on the album for me personally. But yeah, good Sevendust album. But that's where it lands on my ranking. But next in my ranking, we have Cold Day Memory. And this was their comeback album with Clint back in the band, and another solid album from the band. I mean, some of my favorites on here: Forever, Unraveling, Confessions, Last Breath. Yeah, definitely has its share of really good songs on here. I wouldn't put it up there as one of my favorites, but still, that's a pretty good album, though. And a good return for them, too, with, again, having Clint back in the band. But next in my ranking, we'll be going to the first album with Sonny Mayo, and that is Next. I think this album is actually a tad kind of underrated. Not talked about as much as, of course, some of their other albums like Animosity or Home. But I think I kind of dig this album. With that said, it is one of those albums that I would kind of put under the category of it's obvious which half is stronger, that of course being the first half, while the second half is a little bit weaker. But the second half does have its moments, though. I do like the last song. The song of the last song, not the actual last song on the album, but the last song, one of the heavier songs on the album. I really dig the heaviness of that song especially, and I also dig Morgan's vocals in that song especially, such as in the verses. You also have the song Ugly, which is arguably maybe the biggest song on the album, definitely one of the big highlights on the album, I'd say. But I do think you get some solid deep cuts on here, though, like Pieces and Failure. I really like Lejean's vocals in Failure, especially, such as in the chorus. But yeah, pretty good album from Sevendust. Again, kind of underrated. The next two, moving to Black Out the Sun. When it comes to their more later work, I think this is one of the best ones, or one of the stronger ones. I mean, some of my favorites on here, Till Death, which I think is kind of overlooked a little bit, but easily one of my favorites on the album. You have the big song on here, Decay, which is easily one of my favorites. You have other really great songs like Faithless and Murder Bar. Murder Bar is a song that I recently gave a re-listen to, and definitely was really cool to revisit that song. Dark AM is another really good deep cut off the album, but yeah. Blackout the Sun, another really good album from Sevendust. But now we're moving to, I'd probably say, one of their heaviest albums, and that album is Alpha, which is easily my favorite when it comes to the Sunny albums. I mean, again, some of the band's heaviest work. So you can definitely notice that in songs like Death Star and Alpha. Again, really dig the heaviness of those songs, especially in the riff department. But you also still get some pretty strong Sevendust choruses, such as in songs like Driven and Clueless and Beg to Differ. Suffer is another really good song on here, but yeah, all around, another great album from the band, in my opinion. Definitely dig the heavy nature of that album. But next we're moving to their latest album, Truth Killer, and my copy comes with a signed card. So yeah, pretty cool. But yeah, ended up enjoying this album much more than I expected. I mean, going into it, I knew I would like it, but not as much as I ended up liking it or loving it. But yeah, I think this album is actually pretty good. I mean, I can understand the argument of maybe this album sounding kind of like more of the same, or more of what you kind of expect from modern Sevendust, or what they've been doing lately. But I personally really dig the album. I really dug it when it came out, and I think it was one of my favorite albums of the year. But yeah, I mean, some of my favorites on here, Won't Stop the Bleeding. I really love Lejean's vocals on that song. Definitely one of his best vocal performances on the album, in my opinion. Really great song. Holy Water is maybe my favorite of the singles. Fence is another great song. Another solid banger from the band, I'd say. Superficial Drug is also pretty good. But all around, sure, you can maybe say it kind of feels like more of what you expect from the band. Not a whole lot new being brought to the table, I guess. Again, you can make that argument, but personally, again, I actually really dig the album. But this would be their first album with Napalm Records. But next we're moving to probably my favorite of the modern era of Sevendust, All I See Is War, and my copy is signed, the CD booklet. But yeah, really dug this album when it came out, and I still enjoy it to this day. But yeah, definitely my favorite of their modern work. I mean, the singles on here especially are really good, like Not Original and Dirty. Risen is easily one of my favorites. I really dig the heavy riffs of that song especially. Moments, I think, has some of Lejean's best vocal work on the album. I love that song. I think it's probably one of their most underrated songs, to be honest. Again, really dig that song. If you haven't heard it in a while, please give it another listen. Sickness is also pretty good. Unforgiven, another favorite of mine on the album. I really dig the heaviness of the album closer, The Truth. I mean, all around, a really great Sevendust album. Really good stuff. But now we'll be moving to my number 4 spot with their 4th album, Seasons. So this would be their final album with TVT, and if I remember correctly, I can't remember where I read this from, but I believe it was Morgan that said that he felt that this album was a bit too commercial. There might have been some studio interference going on with this album. I could be wrong, but either way, I'm just going based on some things that I've seen or heard. But either way, I personally really dig the album. I think it is one of the band's best. I mean, it cracked my top 5. I mean, something you do notice with this album is that there's not as much variation with this album compared to the album before it, Animosity. But even with that said, I really dig this album a lot, especially the melodic moments in the album especially. But you also get some really strong choruses in the album too, such as in songs like Broken Down and Enemy and Separate, which I think is one of their most overlooked, one of their most underrated songs. Love that song. Kind of like with Next, you could maybe say that the first half is the stronger half while the second half is not as strong, but I do enjoy the second half actually. Some songs actually growing on me over time. I mean, Face to Face is definitely one of the highlights on the album, I'd say. Suffocate is a song that's really grown on me recently. I really like that song. Skeleton Song, which is one of the more melodic songs on the album, I really like that song. Really shows that Sevendust has a really great ear for melody. The title track's also pretty good. Not all that different from the rest of the album, but still I do like the title track though. And Disease, I think, is probably one of my favorite album openers from the band too. But yeah, again, probably one of my favorites from the band. Definitely really great album in my opinion. But now we're moving to the album that most people would consider either their best or their favorite, or at least one of their best, and that album is Animosity. So yeah, this is my number 3, and yeah, I mean, you definitely have plenty of Sevendust classics on here, like Praise and Angel's Son, Live Again, and some others, but yeah, I mean, you also get, of course, some great vocals from Lejeune, such as in songs like, of course, Angel's Son, and same with Follow, too. I really like that song a lot. Shine is a song that's I've grown to like more and more with time. If I remember correctly, that song is about Lejeune's brother and what happened with him. And yeah, definitely a song that's grown to be maybe one of my favorites on the album. Xmas Day is also really good. I also like Clint's vocals in this album too, especially such as in Angel's Son and Xmas Day. But yeah, I mean, all around, definitely a new metal classic, and of course, I'm sure many people will agree with me on this. Definitely one of the band's best. I can definitely understand why a lot of people would put that album as their number 1, but for me, it's number 3. But next, we're moving to my number 2, which is their debut album, Sevendust. Self-titled. I know some people might give me looks for putting this above Animosity, and look, I get it. I mean, Animosity, definitely a really great album, but with the debut, I just really love the raw heaviness of this album. I really like it a lot. I mean, you do have some of the band's heaviest work on this album, especially with the album closer, Born to Die, which you could maybe say is maybe their heaviest, or at least one of their heaviest songs. That's a song that just kicks so much ass. I absolutely love that song. I mean, definitely one of my favorites on here, and kind of underrated even within the album too. I mean, a lot of people talk about Black and Bitch and some others, but I think you do get your share of fairly underrated songs on here. I think there's some really good deep cuts on this album, in my opinion. Again, Born to Die being one of them. Same with Prayer. I really like Lejeune's vocals in that song especially. Too Close to Hate's also another really great song. I really like Terminator. Always been one of my personal favorites on the album. But yeah, I mean, Black and Bitch are also, of course, Sevendust classics. Still really great songs years later, but yeah. Definitely one of my favorites from the band. But now I'll be moving to my number 1 Sevendust album, and pretty easy choice for me personally. That album is Home. So yeah, I have a copy of Homework, and this is a promo CD, I believe, and this was, of course, this was used to help promote Home. And yeah, definitely a really awesome album. Maybe one of the best albums to come out from the world of nu metal, I'd say. I mean, Denial was the song that got me hooked onto this band, and I think it's definitely a top 5 Sevendust song for me. Really, the singles on this album are just excellent. I mean, Denial, Waffle, Licking Cream. I really like the female vocals in that song especially. I'm blanking out on her name at the moment, but I really like her vocals a lot in that song. Definitely has a really great voice. Crumbled is one of my personal favorites when it comes to the deep cuts. Same with Head Trip. I do enjoy Chino's vocals in Bender. I mean, Deftones, one of my personal favorite bands, and their album Around the Fur, which is my favorite album by them, one of my favorite albums of all time. Rumblefish, which is one of the heavier songs on here. I really like that song too. I mean, title track's also probably one of my favorite album openers from the band. But yeah, Home definitely has to be my favorite Sevendust album. But yeah, that is my ranking of the Sevendust albums. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your ranking. Let me know your thoughts on my ranking and all that good stuff. But anyways, thanks for watching. Please leave a comment, like, subscribe. Have a nice day, and take care.